All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine this. For more than 2,000 years, an entire life-sized army lay silent, totally buried, a secret kept by the earth. And get this, it wasn't built for any war we'd recognize. Nope, it was built to serve one single man, in eternity. This is the incredible story of what has to be one of the greatest archaeological finds ever, the Terracotta Army.
In life, Emperor Qin Shi Huang, he conquered 6 different kingdoms to create the nation of China, a total powerhouse. But in death, his clay soldiers, they didn't have to worry about human enemies. Instead, the very second they were dug up in 1974, they met a brand new, totally invisible enemy, oxygen. The air itself immediately started to just strip away their brilliant ancient paint, a battle against time that started the instant they saw the light of day.
And the scale here, it's just mind-blowing. We're talking more than 8,000 of these life-size soldiers uncovered so far. But here's the really wild part. No two faces are the same. Not one. Every single warrior, whether it's a regular foot soldier or a top general, is a unique person. It's like they were modeled on real soldiers from the emperor's army. Okay, so let's get the timeline straight, because it's pretty amazing. The army gets created right after the emperor unifies China, way back in 221 BC. He dies, the whole thing is sealed up, and that's it. It's forgotten. For almost 2,200 years, it's basically a myth, just a wild story in some old history books. Then boom. Fast forward to 1974, a few farmers are just digging a well, and they hit something. They had no idea, but they had just stumbled upon this emperor's eternal silent guard.
So you have to ask, right? Who was the kind of person who could even conceive of something like this, let alone command it to be built? Well, let's talk about him. He was powerful. He was a visionary. And he was absolutely ruthless. We're talking about China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang.
This guy, Qin Shi Huang, was the walking contradiction. On one hand, he's this incredible nation builder. He's the one who takes all these warring kingdoms and forges them into China. He standardizes everything, money, writing, you name it. He even kicks off the Great Wall project. But, on the other hand, he was a complete tyrant, burning books, burying scholars alive, just to shut down any opposition. And his obsession with his own afterlife, it was so intense, he started planning this tomb when he was only 13. And this is what really gets me. Underneath all that power, all that ruthlessness, was this absolutely consuming fear of death. He was terrified. He sent out whole expeditions to find a mythical elixir of life. He even started taking mercury pills, thinking they would make him immortal. The irony? They were actually poisoning him. And that obsession, that's the key. That's why this whole underground empire exists. His thinking was basically, if I can't live forever in this world, then I'm going to rule forever in the next one. Now, as amazing as those 8,000 warriors are, and they are amazing, you got to remember, they're just the security guards. They're just the opening act. They're protecting the main event, the emperor's own tomb, a place that to this day has never been opened. It is completely sealed and is surrounded by legend and now some serious scientific mystery.
Okay, so there's this ancient historian, Sima Qian. He wrote that inside the tomb, there are palaces, unimaginable treasures, a whole replica of the Chinese Empire, complete with rivers and oceans made of liquid mercury, all flowing under a ceiling of stars made from pearls. It sounds crazy, right? And for centuries, that's exactly what people thought. They just dismissed it as a cool story, a fairy tale to make the emperor sound even more legendary. But then science showed up. Researchers took soil samples from the big hill that's right over the sealed tomb. And what did they find? Mercury levels that were 100 times higher than normal for that area. 100 times! All of a sudden, that fairy tale doesn't sound so much like a fairy tale anymore. It sounds like a literal, factual description. Those rivers of mercury? They're almost certainly real. And the mercury might not even be the only thing guarding it. That same historian, Sima Qian, he wrote about booby traps, like automatic crossbows set to fire at anyone who breaks in. Now, we don't know if that's true, but archaeologists have found proof of other, much grimmer defenses. They found the mass graves of nearly 100 of the emperor's concubines, who were killed just to be buried with him. And they found evidence that tons of the workers, we're talking hundreds of thousands, were also killed and buried there just to keep the tomb's location a secret. All right, this is where things get really wild. We're about to get into what is maybe the most controversial and potentially history-rewriting theory about the whole site. It's a theory that, if true, suggests the ancient world was way more connected than we ever thought.
So picture this. Before the Terracotta Army, art in China, the sculptures were small, maybe 10 inches tall, and they were pretty simple, very stylized. Then, bam, out of absolutely nowhere, you suddenly have thousands of life-sized, anatomically perfect, incredibly realistic statues. This wasn't a gradual change. This wasn't evolution. This was a full-blown revolution. It's like a technical and artistic leap of light years happening overnight.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does that happen? How does an entire culture's artistic style just take a quantum leap forward, practically overnight? Where did all this new skill and this incredible realism suddenly come from?
Well, there is one really compelling and, pretty controversial theory that points west, towards Europe, and the evidence is starting to pile up. For one, they found other statues at the site, like these acrobats, that have a kind of realistic muscle definition that just screams ancient Greek art. Then there's the bronze birds they found. They were made using a lost wax technique that was super common in Greece and Egypt, but had never been seen in China before. They've even found remains in workers' graves of people who don't appear to be East Asian. And think about the timing. Alexander the Great had already brought Greek culture right to the doorstep of China. So the theory goes, maybe Greek artists actually traveled to China and trained the local craftsmen.
So let's just pause and think about what that means. If this is true, it suggests that the East and West were in direct contact 1,500 years before Marco Polo. That's not a small adjustment. That would completely flip our timeline of global history on its head. It changes, well, everything.
And all of this just brings us right back to today, staring at that sealed tomb. That giant unopened door at the very heart of this whole mystery. With all these legends, all these clues, and the science to back it up, why in the world haven't we just opened it?
Well, the answer is complicated. It's a mix of science, safety, and, frankly, respect. First off, preservation. Remember what happened to the paint on the warriors the second air hit it? Now imagine what would happen to 2,000-year-old silk or ancient texts inside. Poof, gone. Then there's safety. Those rivers of mercury are real and incredibly toxic. And who knows, maybe those booby trap legends are real too. But there's also just this deep respect for the final resting place of China's founding emperor. So for now, archaeologists are choosing to wait. They think it's better to leave it alone until we have the technology to go in and preserve everything perfectly without destroying it in the process.
And that really leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? We actually have technology now that could let us peek inside to see what's there. But at what cost? Is our curiosity, our need to know, worth the risk of destroying the very history we want to see? It really makes you think, are some secrets just better left buried? At least for now, waiting for a time when we're truly ready for them.